Kira Vasquez stood at the entrance of the Galactic Integration Academy and took a deep breath. The air tasted different here. It was clean and filtered, nothing like the wild winds of Earth. She was 17 years old, far from home, and more scared than she wanted to admit. The space station called Helix 9 hung in the darkness between stars. It was home to thousands of alien species, and now it was home to her too, at least for 1 year. Her parents had called it an opportunity, a cultural exchange program. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 15 years ago. Now the galaxy wanted to see if humans could fit in, if they could be trusted, if they were civilized enough to join the rest of the universe. Kira was one of 3 human students chosen for this program. The weight of an entire species rested on her shoulders, no pressure at all. She walked through the main doors. The hallway stretched before her, filled with students of every shape and size. Some had scales, some had feathers, some floated instead of walked, and all of them stopped to stare at her. The whispers started immediately. "Is that a human? Look at her, so small and soft. I heard they come from a death planet. Stay away from her. They are dangerous." Kira kept her eyes forward and kept walking. She had been warned about this. Earth was classified as a Class 12 hazardous world in galactic databases. That was almost the highest danger rating possible. Her home planet had crushing gravity, extreme weather, deadly predators, and poisonous plants. To species that evolved on gentle, peaceful worlds, Earth was a nightmare. And humans were the monsters that crawled out of it. She found her classroom and stepped inside. It was shaped like a half circle, with seats rising up like stairs. Most of the students were already there. They were mostly Veloxi, the dominant species on this station. The Veloxi were beautiful in a strange way. They were tall and thin, with skin like blue glass. You could almost see through them. Their bodies glowed softly with bioluminescent light. They looked delicate, like sculptures made of crystal, like they would break if you touched them too hard, which Kira had learned was actually true. She had spent 3 months in sensitivity training before coming here. She learned how to control her strength, how to shake hands without crushing fingers, how to hug without breaking ribs. Humans were dense with muscle and bone. Their bodies were built to survive a harsh world. What felt gentle to Kira could seriously hurt a Veloxi. She took a seat in the back corner, trying to make herself small. Maybe if she stayed quiet, they would forget she was there. That hope died when she noticed someone watching her. A male Veloxi sat across the room. He was taller than the others, and his body glowed brighter. His skin was covered in elaborate patterns that pulsed with light. Kira would later learn these were clan markings. They showed that he came from an important family, a powerful family. His name was Thalox Venkari, and he was the son of a diplomat. His father was one of the most influential Veloxi in the sector. That made Thalox untouchable. He had never faced consequences for anything in his life, and right now, he was looking at Kira like she was garbage. She met his eyes and held his gaze. She would not look away first. She would not show weakness. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or annoyance. Then his lips curled into a cold smile, and he turned away. Kira felt a chill run down her spine. She had made an enemy. She could feel it. The teacher entered the room. It was a Krithali, a species with 4 arms and a face like a friendly insect. "Professor Vexnar," the schedule said. "Xenobiology." "Welcome, students," the professor said. "I see we have a new addition this year, a human from Earth." Every eye turned to Kira. She wanted to disappear. "Please stand and introduce yourself," the professor said. Kira stood slowly. "My name is Kira Vasquez. I am from Earth. I am happy to be here and learn with all of you." Silence. No one clapped. No one smiled. Someone in the front row actually leaned away from her. "Very good," the professor said quickly. "Please sit down. Let us begin today's lesson." Kira sat. Her face felt hot. This was going to be a long year. After class, she tried to talk to some of the other students. A group of Veloxi girls stood near the door, and they seemed friendly enough. Kira approached with a small smile. "Hi," she said. "I am Kira. I was wondering if you could tell me where the cafeteria is." The girls looked at each other. Their glow dimmed, which Kira had learned was a sign of discomfort. "It is that way," one of them said quickly, pointing down the hall. "We have to go now." They hurried away like she had a disease. Kira stood alone in the emptying hallway. She took a slow breath and told herself it was fine. They just needed time to get used to her. Things would get better. She found the cafeteria and got her food. It was some kind of nutrient paste that tasted like nothing. She looked for a place to sit. Every table she approached suddenly became full. Students grabbed their trays and moved away. Conversation stopped when she got close. Finally, she found an empty table in the corner. She sat down alone. From across the room, she saw Thalox watching her. He was surrounded by friends, all of them laughing. He raised his hand and made a gesture she did not recognize. But from the way his friends laughed harder, she knew it was not kind. She looked down at her food and ate in silence. That night, she called her mother on Earth. The connection was slow because of the distance, but hearing her mom's voice helped. "How was your first day, baby?" Kira wanted to cry. She wanted to say it was terrible, that everyone hated her, that she wanted to come home. Instead, she said, "It was okay. Just need time to adjust." "That is my strong girl," her mother said. "Remember why you are there. You are showing them that humans are good, that we are peaceful. Do not give them any reason to think otherwise." "I know, Mom. I love you, Kira. I love you too." She ended the call and lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling. The station hummed around her, cold and unfamiliar. She was a Deathworlder in a world of glass, and she had never felt more alone. The first week was lonely. The second week was worse. Thalox Venkari had decided that Kira did not belong here, and he was going to make sure she knew it every single day. It started with small things. Kira would find her seat covered in some sticky substance before class. Her assignments would disappear from her desk. Her locker would not open because someone had jammed the lock. Little annoyances that she could not prove were his fault. But she knew. She always knew. Because Thalox would be watching from across the room, his skin glowing with amusement, his friends laughing beside him. Then the rumors started. "Did you hear? Humans carry parasites in their blood. I heard their sweat is toxic to Veloxy. My father said if you breathe the same air as a human for too long, you get sick." None of it was true. Humans had been tested extensively before being allowed on the station. They were clean, safe. But facts did not matter when fear was involved. Students started avoiding Kira even more. They would hold their breath when she walked past. They would sanitize their hands if they accidentally touched something she had touched. One student actually reported her to the health office, claiming she was a biological hazard. The nurse ran tests. Kira was fine, but the damage was done. In the cafeteria, she now had an entire section to herself. No one would sit within 10 meters of her table. She ate alone, surrounded by empty chairs, while the rest of the room buzzed with conversation and laughter. Thalox made sure to walk past her table every day. He never said anything. He just looked at her with those cold, glowing eyes. Sometimes he would wrinkle his nose like she smelled bad. His friends would laugh, and then they would move on. Kira endured it. She kept her head down. She did her work. She told herself that this was temporary, just 1 year. She could survive 1 year, but it was getting harder. One day in the xenobiology class, Professor Vexnar assigned a group project. Kira watched as students quickly formed teams. No one looked at her. No one invited her. Finally, the professor noticed she was alone. "Kira, you can join Thalox's group," the professor said. Kira's heart sank. Thalox's expression did not change, but his glow flickered. Annoyance. "Of course, Professor," Thalox said smoothly. "We would be honored to have the Deathworlder on our team." The way he said Deathworlder made it sound like a curse. The group met after class to discuss their project. Kira tried to contribute ideas. Every time she spoke, Thalox talked over her. When she offered to do research, he gave her the most boring, useless task. When she completed it anyway, he accidentally deleted her work from the shared file. "So sorry," he said with a smile that was not sorry at all. "Technology problems. You understand?" Kira remade her work. He deleted it again. She went to the professor. "I am having some problems with my group," she said carefully. "I think maybe I should work alone." Professor Vexnar looked uncomfortable. I will speak with Thalox. I am sure it is just a misunderstanding. Nothing changed. If anything, Thalox became more careful. He made sure to hurt her only in ways that left no proof. 2 weeks later, Kira came to class and found her desk had been moved. It was now in the very back corner, almost behind a pillar. She could barely see the board. Sorry, Thalox said loudly. We needed more space. You understand, right? Humans need to be kept separate, for health reasons. Some students laughed nervously. Others looked away. No one spoke up for her. Kira moved to her new desk without a word. That night, she called her mother again. This time, she could not hide her tears. They hate me, Mom. They all hate me. And there is this one guy, Thalox. He makes my life terrible every single day. I cannot do anything without him ruining it. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Have you reported him? I tried. Nothing happened. His father is some important diplomat. No one will touch him. Oh, baby. Her mother's voice was heavy with sadness. I am so sorry. I wish I could be there. Can I come home, please? Kira, her mother paused. You know what they will say if you come home. They will say humans cannot handle it, that we are weak, that we do not belong in the galaxy. I do not care what they say, but I do, and so do you. Her mother took a breath. Listen to me. You are stronger than you know, not just your body, your heart, your spirit. You are a Vasquez. We do not run from bullies. We outlast them. Kira wiped her eyes. What if I cannot? You can. Just get through the year. Keep your head down. Do not give them a reason to say humans are violent. Do not prove their fears right. And what about Thalox? People like him always fall eventually. Their pride makes them stupid. You just have to wait. Kira nodded even though her mother could not see it. Okay, I will try. That is my girl. I love you so much. I love you too, Mom. The call ended and Kira was alone again. The next day, Thalox was waiting for her in the corridor. He blocked her path with his body, his friends forming a wall behind him. I heard you crying to your mother last night, he said. The station had thin walls, apparently. How sad. The big scary Deathworlder is homesick. Kira said nothing. She tried to walk around him. He stepped in front of her again. You think you are special because you come from a dangerous planet? You think that makes you strong? I do not think anything, Kira said quietly. I just want to go to class. You are not strong. You are an animal. He leaned closer, his face inches from hers. You do not belong here. You do not belong anywhere. You are a mistake of evolution, and everyone knows it. Kira looked him directly in the eyes. She did not blink. She did not flinch. Her heart was pounding, but her face showed nothing. Move, she said. Something changed in his expression. For just a moment, he looked uncertain, like he was seeing something in her that he had not expected, something that made him nervous. Then he smiled and stepped aside. Fine. Run along to class, little animal. Kira walked past him without looking back, but she felt his eyes on her all the way down the hall, and she knew this was not over. He was going to push her until she broke, and she was terrified of what would happen when she did. It happened on a Thursday third period in xenobiology class. Kira was tired. She had not slept well in weeks. The loneliness was eating at her, and the constant harassment was wearing her down. But she kept going. She went to class. She did her work. She survived. That was all she could do. She sat at her desk in the back corner, half hidden behind the pillar. Professor Vexnar was explaining something about cellular regeneration in different species. Kira tried to take notes, but her mind kept wandering. She did not notice Thalox getting up from his seat. She did not see him walking toward her, moving between the rows of desks. She did not feel his shadow fall over her until it was too late. He struck her from behind. Veloxi had sharp ridges of cartilage on their fingers. They used them for ceremonial combat, a tradition from their ancient past. A strike from those ridges could cut skin and draw blood. Against another Veloxi, it was a dominance move, a way to establish power. A hit like that would send most Veloxi to the ground, crying in pain. Against Kira, it stung. His fingers raked across the back of her head, tearing through her hair and cutting her scalp. Head wounds bleed a lot, even small ones. Within seconds, red blood was running down her neck. The classroom went completely silent. 32 students stared. Professor Vexner froze at the front of the room, all four hands raised in shock. No one moved. No one breathed. Kira sat very still for a moment. Blood dripped onto her desk. She could feel its warmth on her skin. She could smell the iron in it. Slowly, she turned around. Thalox was smiling. He stood over her with his hand raised, ready to strike again. His skin was glowing bright with triumph. He had finally done it. He had finally shown everyone what the Deathworlder really was. An animal that could bleed. "Not so scary now, are you?" he said loudly. "Just a weak, bleeding creature from a—" Kira moved. Later, when they reviewed the security footage, they counted the seconds. From the moment she left her chair to the moment Thalox hit the floor, exactly 10 seconds passed. 10 seconds was all it took. She did not attack with rage. She did not lose control. Her body moved with cold precision, executing movements she had practiced 1,000 times in self-defense classes back on Earth. On a planet where everything wanted to kill you, humans learned to fight before they learned to walk. Thalox swung his hand down for a second strike. Kira caught his wrist. Her fingers closed around it like a vice. She was not even trying to squeeze hard. She was holding back as much as she could. It did not matter. To her grip, Veloxy bones were like dry twigs. She twisted his arm, turning his body. Her other hand came up to his elbow. She applied pressure to the joint, a simple lock that any human martial artist would recognize. Thalox's arm was not built for this kind of stress. Veloxy evolved on a world with low gravity and no predators. Their bones were light and thin, designed for efficiency, not strength. They had never needed to be tough. Crack. The sound echoed through the silent classroom. Thalox screamed. It was a high-pitched sound, almost musical, filled with shock and agony. His arm bent in a way that arms should not bend. He collapsed to the floor, writhing in pain, his glow flickering wildly. Kira stood over him, breathing hard. She looked at her hands. They were shaking, not from the effort. The whole thing had barely taken any strength at all. She was shaking from the effort of stopping. From the terrifying knowledge of how easy it would have been to do more. She could have killed him. In that moment, with her blood running hot and her training taking over, she could have broken his neck as easily as his arm. Some deep, ancient part of her brain had wanted to. The part that remembered what it meant to be prey on Earth. The part that knew the only way to stop a threat was to end it completely. But she was not an animal. She was not a monster. She was human, and humans chose. She had chosen to stop. Blood dripped from her scalp onto the floor. It mixed with some strange, clear fluid leaking from Thalox's broken arm. The colors swirled together like a painting of violence. No one moved to help him. No one moved at all. Kira looked around the room. She saw the faces of her classmates. Terror, horror. Confirmation of every nightmare they had ever had about Deathworlders. She was the monster under their beds, made real. "He hit me first," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I just made sure he could not do it again." Professor Vexnar finally unfroze. The teacher rushed forward, not toward Thalox, but away from Kira, as far away as possible while still reaching the emergency button on the wall. Alarms began to sound. Medical teams arrived within minutes. They loaded Thalox onto a floating stretcher, his broken arm hanging at a terrible angle. He was still screaming, still crying, still unable to believe what had happened. Security officers came for Kira. They were heavily armed. They approached her like she was a wild animal that might attack at any moment. "Please come with us," one of them said. His voice was trembling. "Do not resist." Kira did not resist. She let them put restraints on her wrists. She let them lead her out of the classroom. She walked past the rows of desks, past the staring faces, past the puddle of blood on the floor. At the door, she stopped and looked back. The students flinched, like they expected her to attack. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she said softly. "I just wanted to be left alone." No one answered. They took her away and the door closed behind her. In the classroom, the silence continued for a long time. The students looked at each other, looked at the blood on the floor, looked at the empty place where the Deathworlder had stood. One of them, a quiet Veloxy girl named Senna, had been recording on her personal device. She was not sure why she had started. Maybe instinct. Maybe a feeling that something important was about to happen. She looked at the video on her screen. It showed everything. Thalox approaching. The first strike. The blood. And then 10 seconds of controlled, precise, terrifying self-defense. 10 seconds that would change everything. Senna saved the video and hid her device in her bag. She had a feeling it would be needed. Kira sat alone in a small gray room. Her hands were still in restraints. The cut on her head had been cleaned and bandaged by a nervous medical officer who had barely touched her. The blood on her uniform had dried to a dark brown color. She had been sitting here for 3 hours. No one would tell her what was happening. She thought about her mother, about her promise to stay out of trouble, about how badly she had failed. The door finally opened. A security officer stepped in, followed by a Veloxi woman in expensive robes. The woman's glow was bright and angry. Her clan markings matched the ones Kira had seen on Thalox. His mother. "That is her," the woman spat. "That is the animal that attacked my son." The security officer looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, please, we are still investigating." "What is there to investigate? Look at her. She is a Deathworlder, a savage. She nearly killed my son." The woman stepped closer to Kira, her face twisted with hatred. "Do you know who we are? Do you know what my husband will do to you?" Kira said nothing. There was nothing to say. "We will have you expelled, arrested, sent back to your death planet in chains." The woman's voice rose to a shriek. "You will never leave that rock again. You will rot there forever." "Ma'am," the security officer said firmly, "you need to leave, now." The woman glared at Kira one more time, then stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Kira let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Hours passed. More officers came and went. They asked her questions. What happened? Why did she attack? How could she explain herself? She told them the truth. Thalox hit her first. She defended herself. She stopped as soon as the threat was over. They did not seem to believe her. Then something changed. A new officer entered the room. He was carrying a data tablet, and his expression was strange, confused, almost embarrassed. "We have received new evidence," he said slowly. "A student came forward with video footage, and several other students have submitted statements." Kira looked up. "What?" The officer turned the tablet so she could see it. On the screen was a video. She watched herself sitting at her desk. She watched Thalox approach from behind. She watched him strike her, saw the blood spray, saw herself turn and respond. The video was clear, undeniable. He had attacked first. "Additionally," the officer continued, "we have received a data chip containing months of recorded incidents, messages, videos, logs, all documenting harassment against you by Thalox Venkari." Kira stared at him. "What? From who?" "A student named Senna. She says she has been watching since the beginning. She was too afraid to say anything before, but after today, she decided it was time." Kira thought of the quiet Veloxi girl who always sat near the front, the one who never talked to her, but also never joined in the mocking. The one who had looked away with shame every time Thalox made Kira's life worse. She had been watching, recording, waiting. "Several other students have also come forward," the officer said. "They confirm that Thalox has been targeting you since your first day. They described the sabotage, the rumors, the isolation, everything." Kira felt something strange happening in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. The investigation shifted completely. Suddenly, Kira was not the violent Deathworlder who attacked an innocent student. She was the victim who had been pushed to her breaking point. The evidence was overwhelming. Months of harassment, dozens of incidents, all traced back to Thalox Venkari. Thalox's father tried to make it go away. He made calls, he applied pressure, he threatened and bribed. But there were too many witnesses now, too many recordings, too much evidence, and the other Veloxi families were watching. In Veloxi culture, honor was everything. Attacking someone from behind was considered deeply shameful. Targeting someone who was alone and vulnerable was even worse. That was not dominance. That was cowardice. That was weakness pretending to be strength. The Venkari family had tried to present themselves as noble and powerful. Now everyone could see the truth. Their son was a bully who hid behind his father's position. He was a coward who attacked when his victim's back was turned. The shame was worse than any punishment. Finally, Kira was called to the office of the Academy Chancellor. The Chancellor was an ancient being, a species that Kira did not recognize. She was very old and with hundreds of tiny eyes that glittered like stars. She had been alive when Earth made first contact. She had met the first human ambassadors. "Please sit," the Chancellor said. Her voice was like wind through leaves. Kira sat. "I have reviewed all the evidence," the Chancellor continued. "The video, the recordings, the statements, everything." Kira waited. "You have been here for 4 months. In that time, you have faced constant harassment. You have been isolated, mocked, sabotaged. You have endured things that would break most beings." The Chancellor's many eyes focused on Kira. "And through all of it, you never once retaliated. Not until you were physically attacked and had no choice." "I did not want to hurt him," Kira said quietly. "I just wanted him to stop." "Yes, I believe you." The Chancellor leaned forward. "Do you know what is most remarkable about what happened in that classroom?" Kira shook her head. "You stopped." The Chancellor's voice was soft but intense. "A human in combat mode, with blood running down your face, and every instinct telling you to finish the threat. You stopped. You broke his arm, and then you stepped back. You chose mercy." Kira did not know what to say. "That is why your species frightens us," the Chancellor said. "Not because you can destroy. Many species can destroy. What makes humans terrifying is that you choose not to. You have the power to kill, and you use it to protect. You have the strength to dominate, and you use it to defend." The Chancellor stood and walked around her desk. She stopped in front of Kira and did something unexpected. She bowed. "You showed more restraint in 10 seconds than Thalox showed in 4 months. You are not the monster he called you. You are exactly the kind of being we need in this galaxy." Kira felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them back. "What happens now?" she asked. "Thalox Venkari is expelled. His family is leaving the station. There will be formal consequences for the harassment you experienced." The Chancellor returned to her seat. "As for you, all charges are dropped. You will return to your classes tomorrow, and I have made it very clear to every student and teacher at this academy that you are to be treated with the respect you deserve." Kira nodded slowly. "Thank you." "No," the Chancellor said. "Thank you for showing us that Deathworlders are not the monsters we feared." The meeting ended. Kira walked out of the office and into the hallway. For the first time in months, she did not feel alone. Somewhere on the station, Thalox Venkari was packing his things, his arm in a regeneration cast. His family's reputation was ruined. His future was uncertain. And Kira Vasquez, the girl from the Death Planet, was finally free. The morning after the Chancellor's meeting, Kira walked to class with heavy steps. The charges were dropped. Thalox was gone. But she was still the girl who had broken someone's arm in 10 seconds. She was still the Deathworlder. She expected the fear to be worse than ever. She expected wrong. When she entered the xenobiology classroom, something strange happened. No one moved away. No one held their breath. No one looked at her like she was a monster. Instead, they looked at her differently. With curiosity, with something that might have been respect. She walked to her old seat in the back corner, behind the pillar. But when she got there, she found it empty. A new desk had been placed in the middle of the room, right where she could see the board perfectly. "We moved your seat," Professor Vexnar said. The teacher's voice was warmer than Kira had ever heard it. "You should not have to hide anymore." Kira stood frozen for a moment. Then she walked to her new desk and sat down. No one complained. No one moved away. Class began, and for the first time, Kira felt like she was actually part of it. At lunch, she went to the cafeteria expecting to sit alone. She got her food and turned toward her usual empty table in the corner. Someone was already there. Senna, the quiet Veloxy girl, sat at the table. She looked nervous. Her glow was dim, and her hands were folded tightly in front of her. When she saw Kira approaching, she seemed to stop breathing. "Is this seat taken?" Kira asked. Senna shook her head quickly. "No, please. Sit." Kira sat down across from her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. "Thank you," Kira said finally. "For the video, For the evidence? For everything. Senna's glow flickered. I should have done it sooner. I watched him hurt you for months and I did nothing. I was too scared. You were scared of him. Everyone was. No. Senna looked down at her hands. I was scared of you. I believed the stories. Deathworlder, dangerous, monster. She looked up again, her eyes bright with shame. But you were never the monster. He was. And I was a coward for not seeing it. Kira thought about all the lonely meals. All the empty chairs. All the eyes looking away. You see it now, she said. That is what matters. Senna smiled. It was small and hesitant, but it was real. Can we start over? I am Senna. Kira smiled back. I am Kira. Nice to meet you. Over the following weeks, things changed. It started slowly. A student would nod at Kira in the hallway. Another would ask her a question in class. A group would make space for her at their table in the cafeteria. At first, they approached her like prey animals approaching a predator who had just proven it would not hunt them. Carefully, nervously, ready to run. But they approached. And the more they talked to her, the more they realized she was not the monster they had feared. One day, a young Veloxi named Trell sat down next to her in class. He was small and thin, even by Veloxi standards. His clan markings were faint, which meant his family had low status. Kira had noticed him before. He was often alone, often targeted by larger students. Can I ask you something? Trell said quietly. Sure. You could have killed him. Thalox. Everyone knows you could have. A human strength it is. He trailed off, searching for words. Why did you stop? Kira thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. On Earth we have a saying, she said finally. The measure of a person is not what they can do. It is what they choose to do. Trell frowned. I do not understand. I am dangerous. That is just true. Humans are stronger, faster, tougher than most species. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, and we survived anyway. Kira paused. But dangerous does not mean cruel. Having power does not mean using it to hurt people. It means you have to choose more carefully. Choose what? What kind of person you want to be? I could be the monster everyone thinks humans are. Or I could be something else. Kira looked at Trell. I chose something else. The young Veloxi was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. I think I understand, he said. Thank you. Word spread through the academy about the Deathworlder who could kill but chose not to, who had endured months of abuse without fighting back, who even when she finally did fight, had shown mercy. The story became something more than just gossip. It became a lesson. On the last day before summer break, Kira was packing her things when she heard a knock at her door. She opened it to find a small crowd of students standing in the hallway. Senna was at the front, holding something in her hands. We wanted to give you something, Senna said, before you go home. She held out a small crystal sphere. Inside, tiny lights swirled and danced like stars being born. It is a memory sphere, Senna explained. Each of us added a light to it, a memory of something you did that mattered to us, a time you were kind or brave or just there. Kira took the sphere carefully. It was warm in her hands. The lights inside pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Why? She asked. Her voice cracked slightly. Because you showed us something, a voice said from the crowd. It was Trell, standing near the back. You showed us that strength does not mean hurting people, that being dangerous does not mean being cruel. Another student spoke up. You showed us that humans are not the monsters we thought. You showed us we were wrong, Senna added softly, and we wanted you to know that we see you now, the real you. Kira looked at the sphere, then at the faces of the students around her. Some of them had avoided her for months. Some had believed the rumors. Some had watched Thalox hurt her and said nothing. But they were here now. They were trying. Thank you, she said. All of you. The summer passed. Kira went home to Earth, where she hugged her mother for a long time and slept in her own bed and breathed air that was not filtered and controlled. She told her parents everything, the loneliness, the harassment, the fight, and what came after. Her mother cried. Her father looked like he wanted to find Thalox and finish what Kira had started. but they were also proud. So incredibly proud. When the new school year began, Kira returned to Station Helix 9. She walked through the academy doors with her head held high, and this time, she was not alone. Senna met her at the entrance. Trell was there too, along with half a dozen other students who had become her friends over the past weeks. They surrounded her, talking and laughing, pulling her toward the cafeteria for breakfast. As they walked through the halls, other students waved. Teachers nodded with respect. The whispers were still there, but they had changed. That is the human, the one who stopped. She could have killed him, but she chose not to. Humans are not what we thought. Kira smiled. She was still a Deathworlder. She would always be a Deathworlder. Her body was still stronger and faster and tougher than almost everyone around her. She was still dangerous. But dangerous did not have to mean alone. Dangerous did not have to mean feared. Dangerous, she had learned, could also mean protected. It could mean safe. It could mean that when trouble came, there was someone who could face it. And that was exactly what she intended to be. Not the monster they had expected, but exactly the friend they needed.